So good morning, everyone. So we'll continue with where we left off yesterday. And yesterday we did calculate magnetic field at any point on the axis of solenoid. Okay, the point could be inside and point could be outside, anywhere. And while calculating, while arriving at this expression, did we make any approximation? Is it based on any approximation, something has to be small or large or something?
No, sir.
Actually, no. This is not based on approximation. So this is almost like exact value, exact theoretical value of field at any point on axis of solenoid. Only approximation what we make, every particular winding is taken as a circle. So only thing, it has to be tightly bound, whether each loop or each winding has to be perpendicular to the axis, and this is the field we arrive at. I hope you all understand what does this imply. And there's another way to understand term Ni. And okay, before I go further, so if we take which is the axis of solenoid, in this case we assume that x-axis is the axis of solenoid. And if I take any plane which contains x-axis, any plane will cut the solenoid exactly in the same way. So sectional view, in this particular case, if I take a xz plane, this is the xz plane will cut the solenoid in two half, and each half will look like this. But if we take any other plane, not only xz plane, if we take xy plane also, it will present the same view. If we take xz plane also, to present the same view. Any plane we take which is containing x-axis will present the same sectional view of the solenoid because of cylindrical symmetry. So I think cylindrical symmetry, this is another way we can understand that part. This is what it is. Okay, so this is how it will look like. And what is angle alpha and beta? So alpha and beta is something, so whichever point we take, suppose the point here is inside the solenoid. If point is inside the solenoid, we keep alpha and beta similar to line element. It is angle made by the two ends. And you understand here, this is something, it doesn't look like so. Even if we take any point on the end of the solenoid, if we connect any point on the perimeter of end point of the solenoid to P, it will make the same angle on the axis. It will be like so this is angle alpha beta. Let's take a couple of examples, and this is what we did yesterday. And what we understood, whether this is something within a distance of, if we go to a distance of 3r from the end, the field is 95, more than 95% of the theoretical value. And similarly, and so on and so forth. Okay, so if the length is 14r and all, okay. So what does it tell you? From this we did conclude that field lines in the interior region of solenoid near the axis will be parallel to axis. So I can draw this kind of field lines based on this expression. This kind of expression, since I know field line, value of field here. If field is constant, the field lines have to be parallel, not converging, not diverging. So this is something I can use later on in case of application of Ampere's law. Okay, then can we calculate field on the axis at that end point? Suppose I take a point here, where's the end point here? So this is the axis here, and this is the end point. If I have to calculate field here, it's easy to calculate. When I take the end point, one of the angle here becomes 0, other angle becomes 90. So field on the axis at the end point becomes mu0 Ni by 2. Okay. Then can we apply this formula also for calculation of field outside the solenoid, out on the axis? Let's take one case. Let's take a point of what is written here. Can we calculate that also? Outside a long solenoid on its axis at a distance r. So if this is the axis, which point are we talking about? This is the end of the solenoid. So what distance from here? At a distance r. Can we calculate field at this point? So all of you think in your mind, how would I calculate here? What would the field at a point P, which is outside the solenoid at a distance r from here? How do I have to use this particular equation? How do I use this equation? If I extend the line from here, I drop a perpendicular. I use two angles here. Which are the two angles? Connecting point P to two ends of the solenoid. One of the angle will be this. And since it is a long solenoid, other angle will be approaching 90 degree. But since both the ends lie on the same side, rather than using plus sign, we have to use a negative sign here. Okay, I hope all of you follow. So one of the angle here, since this is R and R, this angle is 45 degree, angle alpha is 45 degree, beta is 90 degree, and since both the points lie on the same side, I will have to use a minus sign. If I put those values, this how it should come. So sine of one angle is 1, alpha sine 90 minus sine of 45. So this would the field at a point outside. Similar way, any point outside also field can be calculated on the axis. Okay, let's continue further. And when we come to, if we have to calculate field using Ampere's law, I think one thing we need to understand in case of Ampere law, as well as which was true in case of Gauss law, you have to have some understanding of shape of field lines to apply Ampere's law or Gauss law. There are also some knowledge of field lines is necessary. Let's take a rectangular loop. Suppose we take a rectangular loop like this. How do I define the rectangular loop? It's a rectangular loop. One side lies along the axis in the interior region. I'm not going near the end. It is one side is along the axis and other side is outside the solenoid. Now, see, suppose I teach this rectangular loop and I use my knowledge. I already know what the field in this area is. From here to here, the field is uniform and this direction. And I go in this direction, loop also I decide to traverse in this direction. So based on my understanding of field line, if I don't know any for the field line, I cannot make use of this figure at all. But if I have some understanding, what I understand from here, if I call this a loop as composed of 4 sides, I know this line integral along this side is 0, line integral along this side is 0. And I know this value of B naught. What is value of B? So what is the line integral from C to D? Line integral from C to D is B into L. And B is equal to mu naught Ni into L. Plus line integral along A to B. Has to be equal to what? Mu naught times current enclosed. So other way of thinking current enclosed also, what does term Ni indicate? I can think of Ni is what? Ni is actually equal to current per unit length. Does it indicate current per unit length? This is number of turns and current in each turn. So Ni also indicates current per unit length of the solenoid, measured along its axis. So if the length is L, the current will be equal to NIL. So what does this indicate here? These two terms become equal. So this makes sense only if the line integral from A to B is 0. So if I take anything, any point outside, if line integral from A to B is 0, only way it can be 0 because the field lines cannot be inclined. The field line has to be because of symmetry. Field lines have to be parallel here. So what does this indicate? Indicate the field outside the solenoid has to be 0. Then only Ampere's law matches with the value of field on the axis of the solenoid. Otherwise, it's difficult to prove integral along the side outside must be 0. Then only the equation matches. Yes, Alad.
Sir, what about the field along the line, sir, along the radius?
This particular line?
Huh? I mean, sir, along the circumference.
Along the circumference, you're saying field by the basically in a plane perpendicular to axis?
No, sir, I mean, between the wires.
See, what we conclude here, see, if we just again take this one, if we take it, I will come to the sheet again. If there's a symmetry, it means that both are equal distance on either side. Symmetry indicates the field line has to be parallel. It cannot be inclined. It indicates field lines are parallel. Anywhere outside. And this thickness is so small in this region also. See, if I take a coil, suppose coil is like this. What is the current element going into the plane of paper? Very close to the coil, field will be dominated by this coil only. Small element also, rest of it becomes less dominant. So here, what is the direction of field if I take two elements next to each other? What has to be field between the two? Field between the two has to be 0 because they are closest to this point. Anything which is farther away will become negligible compared to these two because of very short distance. So there also in between the coils also field will be 0. So here there's no field between the two. So see, actually, is this something so important? Some of you had a lot of concern. That's why I'm spending so much of time. And I looked at 3-4 books. Whether do we come up with any better explanation of why field is 0? None of them. Because it's not easy, and I think only logically you can conclude. Mathematically, it becomes too complicated to prove this point. I think this is something. If you again, we come to the sheet also, a sheet chart. Perhaps again, it will indicate if there's a symmetry, what would be the nature of field lines. See, we have done in case of line, in case of electrostatics. In case of electrostatics, if it is a line charge, any point which is symmetrical, field is perpendicular. In case of this element, if this something like this, there's a symmetry because of a current element going perpendicular to plane of paper. But if the point here, if anything which because of symmetry, the field becomes parallel to the line charge, not perpendicular. So it has no component perpendicular. So there's a difference in behavior in case of charge and in case of current element. We'll come to the sheet. Perhaps you will appreciate this point again. Symmetry part. So how does symmetry part affect the direction of field that we need to understand? So if I take a point here, if I take two elements, two things on either side, this will create a field in the downward direction. This will create a field, equal field in the upward direction. Resultant field will become like this. If at all there is a field here. Okay. So field must be zero. And at this, I think this is not too important. So let's continue further. So what else we can conclude? If I take another loop here, another loop, we take something like this. How do I define this Ampere loop here? One side is along the axis, another side is inside the solenoid parallel to the axis, but is not outside. In this case also, what is the current enclosed? Current enclosed is zero. It is no current element is crossing. All current element cross at a distance of r only from the axis. So since the line integral along this loop has to be zero, these two anyway will have zero. If line integral is zero, it means this is something. If I take again A, B, C, D, only way line integral is zero if I can move from here. If fields are equal, then only it comes line integral zero. So whatever line integral I have from A to B, from C to D, it has to be equal and opposite. And since we are traveling in the opposite direction, it will cancel out if field along AB is equal to field along CD. So what does it indicate? It indicates whatever field we have on the axis of solenoid, same field is there at some distance from the axis also. The field is uniform within the solenoid and field becomes zero outside. These are the only 2 points we need to understand. And in terms of basically using Ampere's law. So field here, so at this point also whatever field exists, this point also the field is same. Then only Ampere's law gets valid. And in this particular case, if there's some field here the field has to become zero, then only the Ampere's law is valid. In this case, there's no current enclosed, there's a current closed. So this is a conclusion we can come to based on application of Ampere's law. Okay. Okay, another thing you can look at, partly inside, partly outside. And this is the kind of proof given in many books also. So once we conclude the field here inside this region is same as field outside, I could have directly applied and calculated field along this line also, along DC. So if I take this Ampere loop, if I take a loop, one side being parallel to axis, this side also parallel to axis, but this point is not lying on the axis. If I apply Ampere's law, based on assumption that here everywhere field is parallel to axis, hence line integral along this side is zero, line integral along this side is zero, outside the field is zero, hence line integral along this also is zero. Thus the equation what we typically use to find out value of field inside a solenoid. So these are the three assumptions we need to have to derive this equation. So in the previous slides and yesterday, I have tried to give a kind of logical proof why this will be zero, why this will be zero, and why this will be zero. Another way. So understanding symmetry is easy to notice. Line integral along three sides is zero, or it is non-zero only alongside CD. So taking clockwise positive and current into the figure will be positive. And we apply Ampere's loop law. If length is L, we calculate current enclosed will be equal to I times, and each loop current is I into number of loops. So the line integral is only along C to D, which is B into L. B into L is equal to mu naught into current enclosed NIL, which is B is equal to mu naught NI. So this is either this way or the previous way. So one of the proofs are offered, and I believe the proof is understanding of how it is arrived at is more important. The proof doesn't come in the examination. So you don't have to understand proof from the perspective of writing an answer in the examination. If at all you want to understand, you have to understand so that it enhances your understanding, not for kind of writing a proof in the exam. Okay, let's take some more variation of solenoid. What happens if there are double layer of windings in the same direction or sense? Let's understand what does same direction and sense mean. So this is one layer, and then we add one more layer. These are what we notice here. If there are two layers of winding on a solenoid. Akshay, please close your video of input. So double layer, multiple layer of winding in the same sense or direction. If in this case, how does it look like? Lower side, it is coming out of the paper, and this is going into the paper. So it is something like this is wound in this fashion. Both are wound in the same sense. How do we calculate field at any point in the interior region? We already concluded, except for the end region, in the central region of the solenoid, field is uniform. So this could be the entire region of the field is uniform. Okay, and what will be the direction of field? The direction of field will be, if we use our right hand thumb rule, this is the direction of field. Can we calculate field here? Yes, we can calculate. How do we calculate? Using principle of superposition. We can take each layer as independent winding. So you can think of as two solenoids here, and resultant field is vector sum due to each solenoid taken independently. Since both are in the same direction, it is equal. You can directly add it. Resultant field is vector sum of B1 and B2. Since they are in the same direction, I can also write as magnitude of B is equal to what? Magnitude of B will be equal to B1 plus B2 if they are in the same direction. And if they are in the opposite direction, of course, it will be the difference of the two. So if they are in the same direction, what does Ni and I1 indicate? This one may have different current. If one winding has current I1, it has N1 turns per unit length. Other one has a current equal to I2, and it has N2 turns per unit length. So magnetic field created in the central region will be mu naught. This is the magnetic field, vector sum of the two. What happens if the windings are in the opposite direction of sense? So we have wound the wires in one direction. This is how it would look like if we take a sectional view. The one layer we find it's going into the plane of paper on the top, another is coming out. If it is like this, what will happen? Still, the one would create a field in one particular direction, other will create field in the opposite direction. So if we take the resultant field, if the magnitude of field with the difference of the two. So in terms of magnitude, we can, yes, either we can write that down. In terms of magnitude, we can easily calculate. So that part is simple. Having two layers, we can calculate either in this form, not necessarily to, if we understand how did we arrive at this expression, it's not a formula which needs memorization. Very quickly you can understand which formulas to be applied depending on direction of windings. Are they in the same sense or opposite sense? If they're in the same sense, magnetic field created also will be in the same direction. It may also happen, this is solenoid placed inside another solenoid. It is possible that we have two cylindrical shell. One cylindrical shell has some winding, another cylindrical shell also has winding, and it's possible to place one solenoid inside the other. So in this case, how would magnetic fields be? Okay, so field inside the interior solenoid. Again, all cases we are talking about which area we are talking about, not the end part, we are talking about the interior part of the solenoid. So in this region, the field will be uniform. Now there are two regions. There's one region, this one region, and this is the second region. And you can also take outside as the third region. So we know what will happen to field outside. In three regions, the field will be zero, no problem. In this case, what will happen? The field will be created by the inner solenoid as well as outer solenoid. So here field will be equal to B1 plus B2. And B in and B out, both of them will create field. How about this part 2 here, region 2? In the space between inner solenoid and outer solenoid, what will the field? If I call this as N1 I1 and this is N2 I2. So in this case, what I notice, both the fields here, both have same sense. So here both will add up. In this part, both will add up. That's why mu naught and N1 I1 plus N2 I2. So how will be the field between the two solenoids? Between these two solenoids, in this region, the field will not be created by inner solenoid. Inner solenoid will create zero field. So this region lies outside the inner solenoid. Only outer solenoid will create field, and that field be equal to mu naught N2 I2. Okay. So this is, I hope you understand. If you take a sectional view, how would it look from the side? If I view it from here. If I view it from here, I would see inner solenoid, and I will see a outer solenoid. How the field lines will look like? The field lines will look like dot. And how would the windings look like? This is the direction of windings. Okay. And the field here, this is the field. This field will be in this region, and this field will be in this region. So that part is, I hope all of you have followed. Now coming to what happens, what is, I think I mentioned last time also, I'm just going through revision part.
What about between the solenoids, sir?
What happens between the
Solenoid? Will it be equal to the outer field, right?
No, I didn't understand your question. Between the solenoid means where? Which part?
The blue area.
This area? Region between the solenoid? This area?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, tell me. So will this, there are two solenoids here, S1 and S2. Will S1 create any field in this region?
No, no.
No, why not?
S1 outside of solenoid.
Yes, this area is falling outside. So S1 will not create a field. This point, this region is outside the inner solenoid, but inside outer solenoid. So here the field will create it only due to this. That's what I written here. The field between two solenoids, that's the blue area. What is the field in this region? Only due to our outer solenoid.
Yes.
Any doubt?
No, sir.
Anybody else has a doubt in this? Okay. And toroid. See, again, toroid also is mentioned with this something, though it looks like this. I hope all of you understand. So suppose we have long, thin solenoid. You have a long, thin solenoid. It can, if you bend in form of a circular ring. So what will happen? All these windings also will take a shape like this. So all the windings which are in the inner side, they will be closer apart, and the windings which are outside will be have slightly greater spacing. So it is bent and it is placed in XY plane. So where the center lies in the origin. Basically, we can always choose a coordinate system which helps me understand things better. So if if I take Z is equal to 0 plane, how would Z is equal to 0 plane cut this surface? If we take a Z is equal to 0 plane, it will cut the toroid into two equal halves. And if you look at the bottom half, this is the sectional view. Sectional view for which plane? This is due to Z is equal to 0 plane. What happens if I take Z is equal to R plane? What would the sectional view look like? Would it cut any, see, this particular plane, it will cut all the current elements here. How about if I take Z is equal to say 2R plane? Will it cut the toroid anywhere?
No.
No. What happens if I take Z is equal to 0.5 R?
Partially.
No, it will cut, but will it cut all the loops here? This also will cut all the loops, but it will not come at a distance. It will come at some other distance. If this is Ri and this is Ro, will it cut? Will the view be like this? No.
The outside ones will be closer.
Yeah, so I think just try to understand how would it look like. This is only for understanding, to attempt to improve your sectional view, to try to is an attempt to improve your 3-dimension visualization. So what kind of sectional view have drawn here? We have drawn a sectional view for Z is equal to 0 plane. Okay, so there's only one plane which can have this kind of view. No other plane can have this kind of view. This does not have cylindrical symmetry similar to what you had in case of a solenoid. So we have cut into two parts. Once we have cut into this part, so this becomes a plane. Okay, this is the plane, so that we know how it is passing through. So what will happen if we consider a circular plane with origin and center in XY plane? Okay, and here, sorry. So let me again come back to this part. So what is the if I consider circular plane of radius less than A? So this inner radius is A, outer radius is B. So if I take a circle Is Z is equal to 0 plane, but what radius? Less than A. Will any current element pass through this plane? Will any current element pass through this plane?
No, sir.
Nothing will pass through. So since no current is passing through, if I take a plane defined in this fashion, what is the plane I have taken? A circular plane with origin at the center in XY plane, radius less than A. No current will pass through. So current will not pass through, and because circular symmetry, field has to be like this. The field has to be 0. So anywhere in the interior region of solenoid, there's no field. Field is 0. No current is passing through. Field also 0. Okay. If we consider circular plane against something of radius less than B but greater than A. So what is this? Something like this, like blue line. If we take a circular of something like blue line, what will happen? How many current elements will pass through? If this has total number of n loops, all n loops all this n loops will pierce through the plane once going into the plane. Will this or the other side will pass? No. So per later than 1, all loops will pass through along the circle of radius r. All which point it will pass through? All will point. So all the circle elements will lie on all this windings will cross this loop at a distance of A from the center. So if I apply and okay, and in this case, if I take this be the direction of field, and to apply Ampere law, what I need to do, I need to choose which direction I'm going to go around the loop. So suppose I take this direction. Which direction? I've taken clockwise direction. If I take like clockwise direction, which direction current will be positive? Cross current will be positive. Cross current, so all this current becomes positive. So how would I apply along the blue loop? How do I apply Ampere's law? Ampere's law, line integral will become equal to B into 2 pi r. And that has to be equal to mu naught times current passing through this surface. How much current will pass through? If it has n windings, all n windings will pass through. If each of the winding has current I, this is the current which will pass through. So this will be the equation, this will be the equation on application of Ampere's law for a loop shown in blue color. What is how it is defined? Of radius greater than inner radius, less than outer radius. If I write the equation, that's the equation. B into 2 pi r is equal to mu naught ni, and hence what will the field? This is the field. What you notice here, field is inversely proportional to r in which region? Between inner radius and outer radius. Okay. And is there any field for less than A? Field is 0. For greater than, what will happen if I take a loop like this of greater than R, greater than B? And I take this direction positive. What is the current enclosed in that case?
0.
0. Because the same number of current going in, same current is coming out, and it becomes 0. So that's a field also becomes 0. So now I ask one question. What is the question? Let's try and see how many can do that properly. Draw a field versus R graph in the plane of toroid. Can we draw a graph? How would field vary as distance R? So from here, if I take R direction, and in this, okay, how would field vary? R and B. Can we draw the shape of field?
Yes,
How would
sir.
field vary? Can someone you draw?
Yes, sir.
So which are the relevant points here?
A and B.
A and B. So this becomes easy. This part is no field. This part is no field. In between A and B, it's varying as 1 by R. That's the shape, and it is discontinuous. Okay. So that's how the shape will be, and that's how we interpret the result in terms of graph. Whatever you have mentioned here, entire thing you want to capture in terms of simple graph. The graph is looks something like this. I think I'll redraw the graph. This is R, and y-axis represents magnitude of field. The important points are A and B. In this region, there's no field, so this will be 0. So graph here will be 0. Here also the graph is 0. So let me drop. So red color, yes, this is the graph in red color. This from here to here 0. From here to here, everywhere it will be 0. Where would the field be maximum? When R is smallest. Here, and from here to it will decrease as a function of R. So this is a discontinuous function. Which are the points of discontinuity? R is equal to A and R is equal to B. That's how the shape will look like. And from this, we should be able to arrive at this expression. Okay, let's understand a large sheet placed in XY plane of thickness T. So it's a sheet like a thin book or notebook, and it is placed in XY plane. One end is the origin, and this is your L dimension, and this is your Y dimension. We assume these are large values, X direction, it doesn't matter. Okay, and thickness is T, and it is having current sigma per unit area, and which direction the current flowing is current flowing along positive Y direction. That's why it's shown as cross. So this is the direction in which the current is flowing. So any current flow will create magnetic field. So we are trying to understand how the magnetic field will get created, not by a, what are shapes we have taken? We have taken shapes, earlier taken shape like a wire. We have also taken a take as a long cylinder. We have taken the shape as a solenoid. We have taken the shape of wire bent from a circle, but this is a different shape. What is this shape? This shape is a thin sheet of thickness T, and across the cross section, same current density flowing along its length dimension. So find the field at a point close to the surface of sheet in the interior region. What does interior region mean here? So I am not looking at a point close to x-axis. I am not looking at a point close to the y-axis. I am looking at some region here in the interior region, not close to the edges. That's the interior region. I think yesterday the discussion was to make you understand what does interior region means, where field can be considered as uniform. So anything which is not close to the edge from either four dies, this becomes my interior region. And this is a sheet, and we are looking at a point close to a surface, not on the surface, not inside the sheet, either above or below, close to the surface. Can I calculate what the field would be? So that's what we want to do. So what is the point here? This is general point where I want to calculate. Okay, and using Ampere's law. So again, when we take Ampere loop, we need to have understanding of field lines. Let's try and get an understanding of field lines. So figure what I have drawn in 3 dimensions, we can convert into 2 dimensions. Sometimes that gives me better view. So this is the view I'll get observing along x-axis. If I place myself here, I will just see the one face of the sheet. I understand the sheet is extending into the plane of paper for a long distance. So if I taken a point, this point is not near the end of the sheet and is not close to the edges from either side. What will be the direction of field at this point? Can all of you arrive at direction of field at this point in the interior region? How would I arrive at direction of field at this point? Disha, can you tell me how do you find the direction of field at this point P, which is above the sheet? Sheet is having current flowing into the plane of paper. And when you take interior, we are going to use symmetry. So Disha, can you tell me how would I arrive the direction of field at this point P?
So like we can take two opposite points.
So we take two pair of see, if I take those two pair, what would this look like? If I take a small length, this is a small width here, and this is small width. So what this element, if I plot here, how would this element look like on the sheet? These elements are like this. What are these elements like? Can I define some of this element is known, similar to some of the known shape we have dealt with so far?
Yes, it's like a long.
It's a thin sheet, so dimensions are small. It's like a long wire.
Yeah.
It's a long wire. And if it is into the plane of paper, we have seen earlier also, the field will be perpendicular to line joining 2. And which direction, since it's cross, my thumb has to go inside and my fingers will curl in the clockwise direction. The field due to left hand side will be in the downward direction. A similar element we take equal distance and all. If we take equivalent pair on the other side, this also going into the plane of paper. This also will create a field in the clockwise direction. And the field here will be perpendicular to line joining 2, and the field due to right element will be like this. So this will be the field due to left element, and this will be field due to right element. Hence the resultant field will be what? Resultant field vertical components will cancel out, and whenever this kind of symmetry exists, field lines will become parallel. That's the point I'm making. So whenever this symmetry exists, what does symmetry indicate? Symmetry indicates the field line has to be parallel to the surface. This is the direction of field. Similar way, if I take a point here also, here because again here clockwise. So clockwise means what? From here clockwise, this element will create a field in this fashion, and this also clockwise is going like this. So it will create a field perpendicular like this. So field below will be again parallel to the sheet, but in the opposite direction. So this I got a sense of how field lines will be, and field lines will be parallel to the surface. Top surface from left towards right, bottom surface from right towards left. And once I understand understanding of field lines, now I can apply Ampere's law. Okay, let's go about applying Ampere's law. So due to symmetry, field lines will be parallel to the surface as shown. What is the surface? This is how the field lines will be. I hope it's clear to everyone. So now I take a loop like this. And if I taken whatever, if I taken this distance is d, I take this distance also d because symmetry. So if the field here is b, this part also the field will be equal to b. And along these two sides, line integral will be equal to 0. So if the length is L, can we write an expression Ampere's loop per loop? All of you can write that expression. So I give a minute, all of you try and write expression, or all of you try to apply Ampere's law to this loop A, B, C, D shown in the figure. Assuming this field is B, this is B, this is 0, 0. I think it's really simple. All of you can easily write. And what is the current enclosed? Thickness is T. So all of you can easily write this expression. Nishita, can you write this expression? So over here, if I am, which direction I have to decide which direction do I take the line integral. Let's take, I have taken clockwise direction. If I take clockwise direction, because if I take clockwise direction, this current going into the plane of paper becomes positive. So when you take in the clockwise direction, dl vector is in the same direction as b vector. So when cos theta will become 1. So from here to here, line integral will be equal to b into L. And from B to C, it will be 0. From C to D, again, it will be equal to B into L. So what is the line integral? Line integral for the entire loop will be equal to B into 2L. Ampere's law, 2BL, and that will be equal to mu naught times current. What is the current which is passing through loop? So since current is given in terms of sigma per unit area, so current will be equal to sigma times the area enclosed. What is the area of the sheet which is enclosed, cross-section area of the sheet enclosed? The thickness is T and width is B. So area enclosed is equal to T into L, sorry, width is L, and sigma being the current per unit cross-sectional area. So this is how we apply Ampere's law, and we get the value as mu naught T into sigma by 2. And T into sigma is nothing but if I take what is the current per unit length of the sheet. Per unit length, the current will be equal to T into sigma, which is lambda. We can also use the term lambda. Lambda indicates current per unit width of the sheet. So that is equal to mu naught lambda by 2 is the field at a point close to the surface. So even the sheet also is another device which can create a uniform field close to the surface. In above one direction, below opposite direction. What happens if there are two parallel sheets? Let's say in this case, they have current in the opposite direction. So this is like a three-dimensional view, and this is the side view viewed along y-axis. So I'm viewing it from y-axis. What I see, I either see face which is perpendicular to y-axis. I see the cross-section perpendicular to y-axis. So this is the formula now. So here also there are three regions. Let me call point A, B, and C. If both are T, T, and sigma, sigma, is it easy to calculate what the field at A, B, and C will be? What will the field at A, what will field at B, what will field at C? Can we calculate those terms? Field at a point about two sheets, what is the field in between the two sheets, and field below the sheets? Formula we already have. How would you calculate field at A? Field at A, if I call this sheet as P sheet and this is Q sheet. So which direction the field is created due to the cross one? Again, the cross one, if I do cross one will create a field. So field due to, this will be field due to P sheet, and dot will create field in the opposite direction. I hope you are able to visualize. So to find field here due to dot, I will put my thumb pointing towards me. If I put thumb pointing towards me, the field will be like this. And similarly here, the thumb is pointing into the plane of figure, the field will be like this. So here field will be like this and like this. So what I notice, outside region here, if they are in the opposite direction, they do add up in the region between the sheet and they cancel out outside the sheets. So we can calculate the field, which is easy. Field above, this will be 0 and this will be 0. Here both will add up. If you both add up, it becomes equal to mu naught T sigma. Okay. Yes.
So if we take an Amperian loop with both the sheets in the same region, we'll get current enclosed 0, right?
If I take an Ampere loop like this,
Yes, sir.
yes, it will become 0. So what does it mean? See, it's a valid point, it will become 0. If what is the case here, current per unit width has to be equal. Current per unit length of the sheet has to be equal, then it will cancel out. What do we conclude from that? It becomes 0. This point is valid. Or what does it conclude? So either it concludes two things. See, if I take a loop like this, and I find the line integral is 0. If I take a line integral along CD, and assume these are 0 anyway, what does line integral being 0 indicates here for this loop? This is 0 because current enclosed is 0. Current enclosed is 0 if both have equal thickness and equal sigma, they are flowing in the opposite direction. It can conclude two things. Either if field here is B1, the field here also has to be in the same direction. And they have to either both are 0 or both are equal and the same direction. That's why you evaluate to 0. It gives you, if I get a line integral 0, it indicates two possibilities. What are two possibilities here? Either B1 and B2 equal and same direction. This is also a possibility. And second possibility, both are 0. Alad, are you getting my point? What I'm saying now?
Yes, sir.
No, you have to evaluate both the possibility. Since we know in this particular case other things also, that's why in this particular case, this is the case here. But this alone doesn't prove that field is 0 here and 0 here. Some cases may not be. Okay. I thought we'll discuss one more variety of cases. We spent so much time on Ampere's law. I thought I'll discuss something which is slightly more tricky in case of Ampere's law. See, Ampere's law, it need not be a plane surface. See here, what is the surface I have taken? I have taken 3 adjacent faces of a cuboid. Does it form an open surface? So combination of 3 surfaces. I have taken which 3 surfaces? Top surface, bottom surface, and right surface of a cuboid. So this whole thing constitutes a surface. Is this an open surface or closed surface? I think most of you agree it doesn't divide the space into pairs. So this is a open surface. If all the faces of cuboid was there, that would make a closed surface. Closed surface means from any point inside to outside, from one point to other point you have to go, you have to cross one of the surface. This forms an open surface. So what is the requirement for Ampere loop? Ampere surface, I think surface and loop, it has to be an open surface. This one is an open surface. Does it form a closed loop? Is there a loop anywhere here? Does anyone see a loop here? So, Jaideep, do you see a loop here? If I take all 3 surfaces put together, this is open surface. Is there a loop here anywhere?
Sir?
Do you see any loop here? Does it form an Ampere loop? If I take this as surface, does it form a loop anywhere?
So the faces.
Ampere loop, better definition is Ampere loop is a boundary of open surface. Do you see the boundary of this? First of all, do you see this as open surface?
Yes, sir.
The loop
so can we mark the boundary of this open surface?
The faces can be taken as a closed loops.
Boundary of the surface.
It's along the open edges.
Along the open edges. That's the boundary. This is not the open edge. So what is the boundary here? This becomes the boundary. This is boundary of the surface. So if I take a sheet, if I fold it twice like this is the boundary. I hope all of you understand this is something at boundary. Is this a boundary?
It is, sir.
It is. This is a boundary. This is a boundary. Is this edge a boundary?
No.
No.
Actually not. This edge, no. So this is something boundary, surface, and other side is space. Surface, space. This is the boundary. So actually this also can be taken as an Ampere loop. But if I take an Ampere loop, suppose I take Ampere loop, I have to choose one direction for traversing. If I take this direction positive, this direction becomes, this is the direction I move around the loop. You understand? See, if it is a loop, I can start from one point, come back to the same point. I start from here, I go like this. I go like this. I go like this. Go like this. Back to the same point. It's a loop. All of you get that one? So when it is a loop, see, each plane I can define the direction of the plane. So if I take this loop with right hand thumb rule, what is the direction of this plane here? This perpendicular plane, only two directions possible, either upwards or downwards. If I take this as the direction of the loop, direction in which it travels the loop, which direction should be positive for this plane? Up, down, or what?
Down.
Who said down? Curl your finger along the direction. Curl your finger along this direction. You're down, which will point? Which direction thumb will point?
Upward.
Downward.
Okay. Actually downward only. Okay, so this is the direction for the first area. Similar way, can I think of what is the direction for the second area? See what happened, this area has been, Halad, yes.
Sir, Ampere loop, we have to, the current should be enclosed, right? Here we're taking current.
I'll come to that part. See, we have not even drawn the current element. Current element should pass through the surface. See, this is something, okay. So now we come to the second area. See what happened, the plane was like this. I have folded this area like this. Which is the direction of normal for this surface?
Leftwards.
Leftwards. And for this surface? Bottom
Upwards.
surface? Upwards. Now let me take current elements. Okay, and this is little more complex form of application of Ampere law. And okay, but this let me take now, how is the current element? So suppose there's a current element which is vertical, upward, going like this. This is the current element. Okay. So how would I write the current passing through? It is passing through this surface. It is not passing through this surface. It is passing through this surface. So what is the current passing through Amperian surface here? Through the area bounded by Amperian loop. This also area bounded by loop. So what is the current? It is not passing this surface. Should I take this here? It is passing the surface. Here it is passing the surface. Current is I. What should I take as the value here?
0.
Plus I or minus I?
Minus I.
Because n direction is area vector is in this direction for this particular direction of traversal loop. I will take as minus I here. I will take as plus I here. So if this is a loop, what is the current enclosed by surface bounded by Amperian loop? Is 0. So if let me write what I mean here. Current passing through area either I can write like this, perhaps this may not be great understanding, or okay, or current piercing or passing through an open surface. Which open surface I have taken as ambient surface. So suppose I take another current element. What happens? This one I1. So this one becomes 0. Let me take another element. Other element goes like this. It will start from bottom. Let me draw another element. I2. How should I take I2 now? This place, it is piercing the area twice. One here, one here. What should I take here? This is plus direction. So I'll take here I2 plus. Here it is opposite to area vector. I'll take minus. So this also net is 0. So net due to I1 is 0. Net current passing through. I1 is 0. I2 also is 0. If I take another third element, which is like this. I3. Now, if I take all of them put together, what is mu naught times I here? Mu naught times net I. If this is a figure given, mu naught times net I, this will have 0 value. I2 will have 0 value. When I take I3, it will be plus I3. Mu naught I3. That's net value. Yes. Okay. Before I ask, there's something. How many of you understood what I explained in last 10 minutes? Is it some of you following or none of you are following? Okay, good. Okay, so quite a few of are you sure? See, okay. Oh, good. I think many of you could say. So again, to repeat, see, many times in the we present a simpler version of Ampere loop or Ampere surface. We just take a plane surface. And that is not the right or exact interpretation of Ampere's law. What is the right interpretation of Ampere's law? It has to be an open surface. An open surface, if it is plane, it becomes simple. But open surface may be curved, it may be bent. So when you have an open surface will always have a boundary. The boundary is defined as a loop. So where is the line integral calculated about? Line integral is calculated about the boundary of the open surface. And we can choose any particular direction for traversing. Based on the direction in which we choose the loop to be positive, we define the current direction to be positive or negative. So this particular example is made to help understand. So again, so basically what I say, when we apply, what is the condition for application of Ampere law? Condition for application law is you need to have an open surface. So any open surface I can apply, which could be open, could be a planar surface. It could be a non-planar surface. It's not necessary it has to be a plane. If it is plane, life becomes very simple. And it could be a non-planar surface also. So whenever you have open surface, all open surface will have a boundary. Boundary of open surface . So we calculate line integral along the loop. Or I can say along the loop or along the boundary of the open surface. For this, I need to choose a particular direction as positive. Choosing one senses. Okay, there are two senses possible. There are no three possible. Either I can do this way or one sense as positive. And what we define as positive, see, I have defined this as positive, and based on that, all other area can be defined. Okay. And then area vector direction as well as I direction, positive or negative, depends on right hand thumb rule, keeping this in mind. And then we write, when we say what is current enclosed, actually current enclosed, maybe the better term is net current passing through open surface. Okay, so this is, I think, this is perhaps more appropriate understanding of Ampere's law. Or if you find it difficult, this is the most cases we deal with this only. But this is not the only case. Some cases we need to have something. This is theoretically more appropriate definition. So I hope all of you, several of you understand this definition as well and get a sense of what it means. Okay. So maybe I'll take a couple of more examples in the evening if possible. And let's take one more simpler case. Is something here also. What happens if I have a loop of, if I take a piece of wire, now per wire I can make something 8 kind of shape like this. I'm not twisted the wire. If it is not twisted the wire may whole loop may lie in one plane. If this plane has direction, this and normal direction positive, in this part also will have normal direction positive. Can you imagine what happens if I twist the wire? What is twisting the wire? I rotate by 180 degree and make an 8 like this. When I made 8 like this, what happens? This forms 2 different areas, one area and one area. This is something, both this thing. If I take this, the direction in which I traverse the loop, which direction is positive for this case? If I curl my fingers in this direction, my thumb will point upwards. So what has happened? This one for first loop, this is the direction possible. And for the other loop, if I rotate this other loop by 180 degree and twist and form an 8 kind of thing, here for this loop, downward direction is positive. Now, what is the significance of upward direction positive? I1 is passing through first area. For I1, upward direction positive, so I will take I1 as plus I1. Because which direction positive depending on which area it is passing through. When I come to other 2 currents, I2 and I3, I3 are passing the right part of the loop. Right part downward is positive, I2 is positive, I3 is negative. So this one, if I have to write, what is the net current piercing through the open surface? It is equal to that's term.
Sir, is it like 2 closed loops, sir?
Now, this is something I think in the evening, just take a wire. I think evening I'll show that. You take a lace and rotate it.
Is the wire touching at that point? Like,
Where, which point? No, this should not be touching.
okay, then.
There's a small gap here. See, just imagine, this is something you can take a lace like this. What happens if you turn the right part by 180 degree? Without touching, without these 2 wires touching each other, a small gap here.
So we can just reverse the directions of current, right?
See, actually, just try and think how this surface has been formed. This surface, if I take a plane sheet, this surface, how do I form? If I had a plane sheet, okay, I mark 3 lines here. First, I bend along this line, I rotate it by 90 degree. How would the sheet become? So when I rotate by like 90 degree, what has happened? The area vector also rotating by 90 degree. The area vector which is like this, first I have turned around which line? Along this axis, I have rotated the right part by 90 degree. This area sheet would become like this. So this has become area vector, this become area. Now what I've taken, again the lowest part, I have rotated about this line, like this. So when I rotate which are like this, what will happen? The area vector also after rotation, area vector also rotates and area vector becomes like this. So something like this, any surface I can, so when I have surface, I can bend it, I can slightly cover it, you can do many shapes, but boundary, so I'll come to this shape also. I think evening I'll take, maybe I'll show a piece of paper, how that other shape also can be formed and significance. Typically, we don't expect very complicated question in Ampere's law, but this is something, if you feel little interested, what is the right form? This is the right. Is it applicable in many cases? No, pretty simple. I think this, if you want to just follow kind of rule of thumb, okay, what is rule of thumb? Whenever it is twisted like this, the direction of area vectors are opposite. So it is positive in upward direction in left loop, it is positive in the downward direction in the right. So if at all I have to teach this topic to maybe some BPC classes, and I find the students are not able to find a sense of direction, what we do, we don't explain it. We just make it kind of rule. Everything becomes a rule. So what is the rule we are saying over here? Okay, if I twist a loop, in one part if up is positive, other down is positive.
You can imagine unraveling it and do it, right?
Yeah. So we have to tell them. So overall understanding requires linking all the points here. So those, what are the points which need to be linked? These are the points which need to be linked. I hope that this is perhaps a better sequence of understanding of application of Ampere's law. But is it applicable in many cases? No, there are not many cases. Has it come very often? No, it has not come very often in the examination, but it doesn't mean it would never come. So if you want to be prepared for everything, prepare thoroughly, yes, this is the better understanding. Okay, so I think they are out of time, so I'll end the session here. So those who have any doubt or something, you want to stay back for a while and discuss, here.
Sir?
Yes?
Sir, we can have many number of Ampere loops on a non-planar surface, right, sir? Like, it's not necessary that only the boundary, right, sir?
No, see, if I take a surface, open surface, you take a piece of cloth, you can form so many shapes with open surface, can you not?
Yes, sir.
But if I take a, see, suppose I cut a piece of paper, will the length of the boundary of the surface change? See, just take this case, try and understand. What I have taken a sheet of paper.
Yes, sir.
I have bent it twice. I made this shape with the sheet of paper. But in the process, has the boundary of the surface changed? Length of the boundary?
No, sir.
It doesn't change. But whenever I'm rotating or doing something, I'm changing the direction of the area part of the surface. So any shape, whether this is something, I can take different shapes. And I can take a shape which is something like this also. Which shape is something like this?
So like a part circle on one plane and a part circle on another.
This kind of shape, can you imagine rotating the right part by 180 degree?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
But what you have to understand, once I have chosen a surface, whichever shape I bend it to, its length of the boundary does not change. So first you have to understand, any open surface has to have a boundary. And that boundary is my length. The boundary of open surface is the loop. And the loop length, once I chosen the surface, it will not change. So open surface, is the sequence make sense here? That's point is important. Is this sequence? Are you following the sequence here?
Yes, sir. So we're choosing the loop such that the length of the boundary will not change.
Yeah, and think of it. Any shape you imagine, you take a practical sheet of paper, take a practical piece of cloth. You see, it won't. So what will happen if I fold into two also, if I take a sheet of paper? Yes, Vignesh.
No, sir.
So this is perhaps a more proper understanding of where Ampere law has to be applied. And this is one of the simpler example I thought to make little sense. Have you followed this whole thing here?
Yes, sir.
Is it some part we find very complicated?
No, sir. No, sir. I just had the doubt, like, why are we taking only the boundary?
Oh, yes. And so this see that it makes sense. If anything not clear, again we can discuss so far.
Yes, sir.
The way how the area has to be taken, it becomes curved, it becomes problem. Every small part we need to take. So suppose I have hemispherical surface. Can I take hemispherical surface? Yes, I can take hemispherical surface. But if I take a hemispherical surface, yes, if I take this part, okay, hemispherical surface also. Can I take, how do I define this current also? Which direction plus and which direction minus? Can we think of that also? If I take a hemispherical surface, this becomes my boundary. This is a loop. So if a current goes inside the hemisphere and comes out like this, it is not touching the hemisphere. Is it piercing the surface? What is the net current? Because if the current goes without touching the surface, comes back. Is it possible?
Yes, sir.
It will not piercing the surface then. It will not come into play this calculation at all. Not on the right hand side of the equation.
But
so what will happen? Would it create field? Yes, it will create field on this various points on this loop. But if I calculate the field, the line integral of whichever direction I take will come to 0. That's what it implies.
why will it be 0, sir?
Yeah, just imagine.
Oh, it's entering and exiting, sir.
Exactly. No, it is actually not even piercing through the surface, not even entering. And if you can take other one, it goes up like this and comes like this.
What do you mean piercing, sir?
See, what is the word I have used here? Loop, area vector and direction plus. What is current enclosed? Net current passing through the open surface. If I take a hemispherical surface here, curved surface of the hemisphere, only that part of current, the current which has to cross the surface, or we can use word piercing the surface. Both the things have same meaning. See that, think of some more ideas in your mind, and you will have some more clarity. Okay. Bhavishri, something has gone into head?
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
Or is it appearing too complicated?
No, sir, it's easy.
Easy? Okay. Good. This is visualization of things in 3 dimension is an important skill. And through various examples, we try to develop that skill even further. And this also as a more of how do you visualize? We draw figures in 2 dimension, but our mind should be able to convert that into a 3-dimensional visualization. And if we can do so, that is a very important skill to learn. And all those things are nothing but ways and tools of developing that skill. So even if it may not be very important from examination point of view, it helps you develop certain skills which may be useful in various ways. If some of you can get a good understanding of what you have done, it enhances your skill. Preetham?
Yes, sir.
Have you understood properly?
Yes, sir. Understood.
Understood? Good. Okay then. So anybody has any query, you can ask. Otherwise, I'll wind up here and again catch up in the evening then. Anybody has any other question you want to ask? Something specific not understood in any part?
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, in the hemisphere part, we take only the circular base as the loop, right, sir?
No, see, when I take hemisphere, I have to define what is my surface. If I take curved surface as well as bottom circular surface all together, it becomes a closed surface then.
Yes, sir.
So if I have to take an open surface, I have to choose which one I take the open surface. Either I take the curved surface or take the circular surface. If I ever take the circular surface, there is no meaning of the upper surface. In that case, it becomes a plane surface.
Yes,
are you following my point? If I take...
Yes, sir. Then it's not along the length, right?
If I take circle as well as curved surface both as my surface, both are part of the surface, then it's a closed surface. I can't apply Ampere's law. So what for open surface, what is necessary? So which is my surface? Only the curved surface is my surface. So current, which current I will take? Only the current which is passing through the curved surface. Any current which is not passing through curved surface, if there is a current element like this, this is not part of my right hand side of the equation. That's not part of my current enclosed. So what is current enclosed? Which is piercing the surface, which is passing through the surface. Any doubt in that understanding?
No, sir.
No, little doubt is there.
Understood,
Okay, you take 1 or 2 examples, see where you get any issue with that. And why I'm discussing this, when we even took even Maxwell derivation also, actually Maxwell derivation we don't do in the class, but those who are interested, Maxwell derivation also, you have to take an Amperian surface which is not plane surface. So with plane surface, the derivation doesn't come. And he took a surface which is not a plane surface, which only helped him identify the error in Ampere's law, and he could make that correction. Had he only taken a plane surface, that correction, that error could not have been noticed, the error correction could not have been made.
So what it is?
So that's why I feel it is necessary, just don't have in your mind that here it is applicable only to plane surface. So we take a loop lies in a plane, and area is area bounded by a plane loop, which will come into a planar surface. No, that's not the correct definition. So for a given loop, how many surfaces we can have? For a given loop, we can have infinite types of surfaces. For a given loop, so if I had circular, how many different loops I can make with this? With this circular loop, how many surfaces I can make? I can make hemispherical surface. I can make a conical surface. I can make some other kind of surface. So many different surfaces we can make. So for a given loop, infinite surfaces, infinite open surfaces. Boundary remaining same. Okay,
Yes,
then.
sir.
Okay, then I will stop here. And if there's any doubt, we'll again continue in the evening session.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, everyone.